In this video, we are talking about why playing it safe is destroying your life. I want to ask you, when was the last time you avoided a conversation you knew you needed to have? Not because the timing was wrong, not because it wasn't important, but because some part of you decided that staying quiet was safer than saying what was true. Most men I work with can answer the question immediately because there's always a conversation they are not having, always something they're sitting on, always a version of themselves they're keeping just out of reach. That's not caution. That's not wisdom. That's fear. And it's costing you more than you realized. I've been running a men's community for several years now. And in that time, I've had deep conversations with hundreds of men about what's actually going on in their lives. Not the surface stuff, the real stuff. And one pattern shows up more consistently than almost any other: that fear has quietly become the driver of their decisions. And they try to justify it by calling it something else: caution, timing, practicality, yet they never stop to look at what it actually is. That's what this video is about. I see this consistently in the men I work with. A man knows he needs to have a difficult conversation. He's known that for weeks, sometimes months. He has the words ready, and yet every time the moment arrives, something stops him. When I ask these men what they're actually afraid of, they can tell me immediately: oh, she'll get angry, and I'll just shut down. It will just make things worse. Why do it? The list is always specific, always vivid, and almost always when the conversation finally happens, none of it actually plays out the way they imagined. Here's what's happening underneath all that. The fear isn't really about the conversation in front of them. It's older than that. From a psychological perspective, what we are looking at is the fear that gets encoded early on in childhood. When you're a child and the people around you respond to your honesty, your needs, your emotions with anger or withdrawal, your nervous system takes note. It learns that expressing yourself creates danger. And it stores that learning at a very deep level, not as a thought, as a physical response. So 20, 30 years later, you're standing in your kitchen about to have a difficult conversation with your partner, and your body responds as though you're 8-year-old again. Your heart rate goes up. Your chest tightens. Your mind starts generating reasons to stay quiet. But here's what I want to tell you: that fear was formed at a time when you were genuinely powerless. I want you to know that you're not powerless anymore. You have the ability to set boundaries. You have the option to express your wants and needs. While avoidance feels like the safe choice and it removes the immediate discomfort, if you avoid things for a long time, they seem to go back to normal, and your nervous system rewards you for it. But here's what avoidance does over time: it compounds. Every unsaid thing doesn't just disappear, it becomes distance and creates a disconnect in your relationships. It becomes resentment. It becomes a version of you that the people closest to you can't fully reach. I've worked with men who've never raised their voice, never said anything cruel, yet their relationships are in crisis because years of staying quiet, of holding back the things that needed to be said, have built a wall that nobody can see over anymore. And this is the cycle. Their fears lead them to play it safe. Playing it safe creates distance and unresolved tension. That tension makes the next conversation feel even more loaded, which increases the fear, which leads to more avoidance. The thing is, the more frightened a man becomes, the more he leans on the survival mechanisms he developed as a kid. And the more he leans on those mechanisms, the less equipped he is to handle his adult life. And the less equipped he feels, the more frightened he becomes. That cycle, left unexamined, will run for a lifetime. So if fear is a memory and avoidance makes it worse, what actually changes things? The research is consistent, and it matches with what I see in the men I work with. The only thing that actually changes the fear response is doing the thing you're afraid of and knowing that you'll be okay. Not thinking about it, not planning it, just doing it. Every time you walk through a fear rather than around it, you create new evidence for your mind. Your nervous system, which has been operating on old data, gets an update. It tells you the conversation happened. You said the thing, and you're still here. So it's safe to do that again and again. This is what we call self efficacy in psychology, the evidence based belief that you can handle what comes. Nice guys have very little of this because they've spent years doing things that don't work. Every avoidance confirms the story that they can't handle things. But every time they walk through their fears, that story starts to break down. I want to be honest with you. The first few conversations you have from this place will probably be messy. You might not say it perfectly. The other person might not respond the way you hoped. That's okay. You're not trying to have a perfect conversation. You're trying to become a man who can have difficult conversations that scare you. I want to share something that happened in our community that I think captures this perfectly. A while ago, we had a member who had been carrying something that had bothered him for weeks. It was causing him to feel resentful of his partner. He knew he needed to talk to his partner, but kept finding reasons not to. He wasn't sleeping much, perhaps 2, maybe 3 hours a night. Then, after discussing with the group and practicing with the men in the community, he decided to have that difficult conversation with his partner. One day, he summoned up the courage, and even though at that stage he was a mess, he communicated with his partner what was bothering him. Now, he expected the worst, but because he had been working with the group to improve his communication skills, instead of accusing her, he just told her how he had been feeling resentful. And on her part, she listened. She didn't explode. She didn't leave. She just listened. He shared with us afterwards that the conversation he had been avoiding for weeks took only about 20 minutes, and that he had spent more time lying awake at night imagining how badly it would go. That's what fear does. It's a masterful storyteller. And every story it tells ends the same way, that you won't be able to handle what comes next. The thing is, it is almost never right. Before I close, I want to give you something practical you can use this week. Set a scheduled worry time. Pick a specific time each day, 10-15 minutes. That's your designated time to sit with whatever is weighing on you. Journal about it. Think it through. Let yourself feel it, but only at the designated time. For the rest of the day, when the fear or the rumination starts pulling at you, you tell yourself, I've got a time for that. I'll deal with it then. What this does is it gives your mind a container. Instead of trying to suppress the fear, which never really works, you're just scheduling it. You're telling your nervous system, I hear you, but you don't get to run the whole day. Over time, this practice creates space. And in that space, you start to see the fear for what it actually is, a story that your mind is telling you, not a fact, a memory, not a prediction. So here's what we covered today. The fear you feel before hard conversations isn't about the conversation. It's a memory from a time when speaking up felt dangerous. Avoidance isn't safety. It's a cost you're deferring and it compounds over time. And the only thing that actually changes the fear response is doing the thing you're afraid of and knowing that you can handle it. If this resonated with you, I put together a short 3-minute quiz that gives you a personalized report based on exactly where you are today, right now. It's free, it takes 3 minutes, and it tells you specifically what to focus on next. Link is in the description, and check it out, and I'll see you in the next one.